Good Erev Shabbos, everyone, and happy Purim Katan. This is the week of Parsha's Tetzaveh, where the Torah continues to tell us about the building of the Mishkan and of the garments that the Kohanim would wear when they served in the Mishkan and in the Beis HaMikdash. The Rambam goes through many chapters discussing these laws, the laws of what the Beis HaMikdash needed to look like and the clothing of the Kohanim needed to look like. And while discussing the laws of the Beis HaMikdash, he mentions some very interesting history that is seemingly not necessary. The Rambam says, where did they place the Aron, the Ark? It was placed in the Kodesh HaKodashim, the innermost Holy of Holies, the inner room of the Beis HaMikdash, on a special stone. However, King Solomon, when he built the Beis HaMikdash, he knew that it would end up being destroyed. So he made deep, twisted, complex tunnels under the Temple Mount in order to place the Aron over there. King Yoshiyahu, who was a king that in his time the Jews were actually doing quite well, but King Yoshiyahu, with foresight, knowing that the Beis HaMikdash would also end up being destroyed, actually took the Aron, had its servants take the Aron, and placed the Aron down over there. In the second Beis HaMikdash, the Aron remained over there and it did not come back. The second temple did not have the Aron, the Ark. The Rambam concludes this history background and says that just like the Ark didn't come back in the second temple, so too the Urim V'Tumim, the breastplate that the Kohen Gadol would wear with the 12 stones that would prophetically answer the questions of the kings and the generals, that did come back in the second temple, but didn't answer with prophecy. Just like that came back and didn't answer with prophecy, so too the Ark did not come back at the second Beis HaMikdash. So there's a couple basic questions on this Rambam. First of all, the Rambam isn't a history book, so why does he find it necessary to give us this history that King Solomon, who built the Beis HaMikdash, also planned these tunnels for when it gets destroyed? Second of all, just so you know, King Yoshiyahu actually placed the Aron over there. This wasn't just a plan. This was placed over there specifically by King Yoshiyahu. Why do we need to know that? And why are we comparing that just like the Aron didn't come back in the second Beis HaMikdash, that's similar to the Kohen Gadol's breastplate, which did come back in the second Beis HaMikdash, but just didn't answer prophetically. And the explanation, which has very relevant lesson for our lives, goes like this. The Rambam's coming to answer a basic question. The Aron is like the essence of the whole Beis HaMikdash. The Aron is the ark through which Hashem reveals himself, and his presence, the Shekhinah, in the Beis HaMikdash is found primarily in the Aron. So how could it be that there's a second Beis HaMikdash that lacks the Aron? This is what the whole Beis HaMikdash is about. If the second Beis HaMikdash lacked the Aron, then seemingly it's not even a Beis HaMikdash. So for that, the Rambam's coming to tell us that don't think the Aron was missing in the second Beis HaMikdash. It was there. Just like the Aron existed in the first Beis HaMikdash, it existed equally in the second one. How? Well, for that, you need to know that the builder of the original Beis HaMikdash, King Solomon, who built the Beis HaMikdash and gave the Aron its place, knew that it would be destroyed and made a secondary place, a second place for this Aron to go. So when the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed and the Aron was taken from its location above ground to its location in these deep tunnels below ground, it's not that the location of the Aron was destroyed, which now made us need to place it somewhere else. Just for safekeeping, technically, no. There are two locations. There are two Kodesh HaKodashim. There's the Kodesh HaKodashim above ground for when the Beis HaMikdash is erect, and that same builder built a Kodesh HaKodashim below ground for when that Beis HaMikdash gets destroyed. And when you place the Aron in that Kodesh HaKodashim, it is just as much in its place in the Beis HaMikdash as it is in the Beis HaMikdash when it's erect. In fact, King Yoshiyahu, who was a successful king, and things were going good for Jews in that time, actually took the Aron and placed it over there. So yes, you don't see the Aron in the second Beis HaMikdash, but that doesn't mean it wasn't there. That Aron was in its place in the Beis HaMikdash in by the second temple, just like it was in the first temple. That's why we compare it to the Urim V'Tumim, because just like the Urim V'Tumim was there, the Kohen Gadol was wearing it, even though we didn't see its spiritual glam, we didn't see its prophetic powers, but it was completely there. So to the Aron, even though it wasn't able to be seen because it wasn't in the erect Beis HaMikdash, but it existed deep down at the essence of the Beis HaMikdash in the second Kodesh HaKodashim, which is not the displacement of the Aron, but it is its second place. And just as much as the Aron is in its place in the Kodesh HaKodashim above ground, it was in its place in the second Beis HaMikdash too, just below ground, not above ground. This has a lot of significance for many of our lives. Let me explain. Hashem builds us up and gives us strengths and makes our lives erect and successful and showers us with many blessings. And that same builder, that same Hashem, also sometimes let the walls come crashing down and things in life don't seem to be going so well. Sometimes the Beis HaMikdash, the buildings and the lives we build for ourselves, or that Hashem gives us, just come crashing down. Tragedy happens, or we make mistakes, or our plans and ambitions, or what we thought life would end up looking like, crumbles. And at that point, it feels sometimes that God forsakes us, or He forsook us, or He just let us fall. And at that point, we need to realize that the same king who built us, King Solomon, or Hashem is compared to King Solomon, actually. The same God who built us knew that one day this is going to happen, and He built for us a second space. Just like He built us He gave us our soul and gave us what we have in our place of strength when we're erect and upright and strong, He made for us a second place, deep, below ground, but a place which is also as much our place, which survives destruction. Just like Hashem is attentive and with us, and we say Baruch Hashem when He builds us up, Hashem doesn't let us go and fall towards tragedy. Hashem is equally present, watching us and building a place for us to exist and withstand any tragedy that happens to us. The space of the Aron wasn't destroyed and then by default placed somewhere else. Hashem calculated that there's a second space where this Aron needs to go when destroyed. Yes, sometimes a Churban needs to happen. Sometimes a Churban happens in life. But Hashem's watching that very closely and making sure He takes that Aron and places it in a place where it could survive and persevere and eventually get built back up. There's a famous book, I remember someone speaking about this once, called Small Miracles of the Holocaust. There's a set of books called Small Miracles, where people in life see different coincidences that are fascinating miracles that even a skeptic would be wowed by. But this one's called not small. There's small miracles for the Jewish mother, small miracles for the Jewish home, and there's small miracles of the Holocaust. At a time when 6 million Jews were getting killed, people were able to see. And when you read the memoirs of those that survived the Holocaust, you see really, really open miracles for literally anyone that survived. How God is saying, I'm not distant from you now. I'm here with you. I built a space for you over here. Yes, there's a churban. Yes, there's pain. Yes, you see destruction around you. But don't think that now you're left for the dogs and that now the Aron just is placed somewhere homeless, placeless, without any footing and without any grounding. I have a place for you, and I have a plan for you, and I have a mission for you. And that's very deep. That's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2 is that Hashem built a space for us where we can withstand any tragedy that happens to us. And from there we can call to rebuild a second Beis HaMikdash, which lasts even longer. From there we can call to build a third Beis HaMikdash. If the Aron only had one location, if the Aron was only in its place when the Beis HaMikdash is erect, then what happens when the Beis HaMikdash falls? What happens when the Churban inevitably happens? Well, then the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. It only existed above ground. But because Hashem built a second space for the Aron to exist below ground as well, that second space actually guarantees the continuity and the everlastingness of a Beis HaMikdash. That means when the Beis HaMikdash above ground was destroyed, it wasn't really destroyed. Location 1 was destroyed, but location 2, the deep one, can survive a Churban and was always there. Because location 2 exists, you can always call from there, from that infinite, deep core that God gave us, to be able to rebuild a second Beis HaMikdash, and it's not really a second Beis HaMikdash. It's just a continuation of the first Beis HaMikdash. Because the first Beis HaMikdash was never destroyed, because the above ground was destroyed, but the below ground wasn't. Not only is Hashem attentive to us when tragedy strikes, and when our lives seem to crumble in one way or another, but Hashem actually gives us a space that we can find new strength, we can find new continuity, and rebuild, not like our first edifices, which were built by our own human strengths, whatever we build with our human strength falls to the ground, but then we call from a much more godly space. Deeply twisted, in a good way, spaces that Hashem gives us, that from there we can rebuild new structures and everlasting structures up to the third Beis HaMikdash, which lasts forever. May we experience this immediately. Good Shabbos.